Welcome to the Securely Yours podcast, brought to you by your very own cyber agony aunts. Me, Amelia Hewitt.
And me, Rebecca Taylor.
We're here to tackle the most pressing questions that arise throughout your cyber career and share some insights from our new book, Securely Yours.
Think of us as your very own mentors, confidants and cheerleaders. Your agony aunts for surviving your career. Welcome back to the podcast. I can't believe we're back here again.
I know. It's very strange.
We missed you, listeners.
I know. I really enjoyed it last time and I've been so excited to come back and do it again.
No, it's very, very special. And we've had such an incredible response, actually, to the podcast that it feels like the right time to get back in the booth and share some more of our wisdom.
I wouldn't call it wisdom. I'd call it insight.
Insight, maybe. Yeah, wisdom makes me sound like I have a big head.
It makes it sound like I have wisdom.
Yeah, very true, very true. So, Amelia, what's been going on?
I mean, we wrote a book and launched it.
We did.
But yeah, so since then, we obviously had the book launch, which we'll come on to in a minute. But I went on a retreat in Portugal, which sounds a bit woo-woo. But it was a women's health retreat. It was amazing. The group was lovely, did lots of fitness, lots of yoga and lots of sessions around women's health. And I don't think I realised how much I needed that break. And I also needed a change of like pace and scenery and to make some new connections because the book process was amazing, but it was really intense. The book launch was super intense. And so, yeah, I feel like I came back a bit more rejuvenated and with a little bit more vision, but I'm not the only one who's been on holiday.
Yes, mine was not so retreaty. I went to sunny Croatia with my family during May half term, which was a joy all in itself. We had a wonderful time. It was a really incredibly beautiful place if you haven't been. But yeah, lugging two kids around, delayed flight, made it a little bit messier than maybe I wanted it to be. But again, similar to what you said, I don't think I realised how much I needed to step away from work and almost step away from the everyday and go and just sit by the pool and actually attempt to read a book and eat nice food, that kind of stuff, as opposed to the rigour of everyday life and school lunch boxes and surviving.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it's really nice to be able to regroup after that. I've really missed you. It's really odd, isn't it? We've basically been joined at the hip for like the last 6-7 months and that's fantastic. But then when we're apart, I feel like I'm missing a limb.
Ditto. It's like a detox. Yeah. Like a forced detox.
Really odd. So for this episode, we want to talk about the process of writing a book because we've had so many questions, both individually and together, about how we got started, how we collaborated, any gotcha moments. And so we wanted to use this podcast to ease ourselves back in and talk about that. But as I teased earlier, before we dig in, I want to talk a bit about the book launch. So, Rebecca, please do share how it went. What was your experience of our book launch?
So I'll start by saying it was incredibly special to be in a room with people that you genuinely care about, a part of your career, a part of your life, and to celebrate such a big moment that you've put so much effort into was like nothing I've experienced before. It was, for me, it was just joy just to be in that moment and to be with people that I really, really love and to do it with you, my little bean. Aww. That was magic. Aww. I'm not going to dress it up that it wasn't overstimulating and exhausting in its own ways. There's a lot of build up to a book launch and to knowing that suddenly your face is going to be in people's houses. And that's intense in itself. Amelia and I did at one point hide in a toilet so we could decompress together until your mum outed us and made us go back
Quite
outside.
Literally dragged us out the toilet. Yeah.
But I think overall it was just a beautiful experience. I will say as well, I think it tested our organisational skill sets to make that magic happen, to bring the vision of how we wanted that launch to feel into that space. But I loved it. I'd do it again. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. If I can tempt you.
I totally agree. The way that I can describe it as someone who's not yet got married is that's what I imagine your wedding day feels like, where it's like, oh, this is really intense and I'm more worried that everyone else is having a good time. But I think we were so fortunate with the weather and all of the services sort of around the venue, the catering, even down to like our makeup, like everyone around us made it so much easier. And we were really lucky to be supported by our friends and our family who came along to help and showed up for us, which was really lovely. But yeah, it was really intense, and we got to the end of the night and I hadn't had one drink, which was really strange because you're so busy talking to people. And yeah, so it was a lovely time. I'm really grateful. It's a really core memory, I think, now.
I love Inside Out.
You do. You do sort of like take away those lessons on, okay, I know what I do differently next time. I'd perhaps not leave it all to us to organise and perhaps, do this or do that. So yeah, I think it's a learning experience, but I had such a fun night, and it's really strange to see people from various points of your life all together. Like at one point my dad was talking to my first boss and like things like that where you just think, you couldn't write this. So yeah, it was good fun.
Amazing. I'm glad it went as well as it did. I'm relieved it's done. I'm not going to dress that up.
We make it sound like we hated it.
No, I think it's just the stress, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, similar to wedding vibes, but hoping that everyone is okay, making sure that you've catered for everybody's needs, that people are actually enjoying it and not wishing the night away. But anyway, so let's dig in. Similarly to the style of the book, we've asked a bunch of our mentees and other females in the cyber industry to share their most pressing questions with us. And as we've already shared today, we're going to be going through some book reflections and our experience of writing a book. In true Agony Aunt style, we're going to address those questions that have come in. So Amelia, starting with you, a lovely question that's come in here. What was the trigger point for writing the book? What made it come to life?
Good question. And one I've been asked quite a lot, actually, since the book came out and since we sort of announced we were doing this. So I always joke that, it was just a joke gone too far. Like it was something we proposed and then sort of ran with it. But I think the underlying feeling is that both of us have had mentees within the industry, outside of the industry. We know a lot of people, especially women, looking to build their careers in cyber. And there is limited accessible resources. There are some really good community groups, but in terms of a self-help guide, that didn't really exist. And so I think we both had that feeling. And then one of us sort of said, why don't we do a podcast? And the other one said, well, one better, let's write a book. And within the same day, the Google Doc had been created.
Yes.
But I think that's it really, is that we've both been there as people in varying stages of cybersecurity careers, and as we build seniority where there's always a new hurdle or a new challenge, and sometimes you don't want to ask for help, sometimes you want to go and find that help. And so with the book, we wanted to create a resource for both men and women, but it's definitely from the female perspective, that gives you almost like that mentoring in a book guide to having a career in cybersecurity that doesn't just feel like you're surviving it, because I've been there and I'm sure you've been there, and it was something that I at times didn't want to ask for help for, but if I knew that there was a book or a resource, I'd have probably read it. So it's almost creating what we needed, however many years ago.
No, I totally agree. I think I have this profound feeling within me that I'm very much in a place of privilege. And actually, if I can share my experiences, if I can help other women own their careers, their platforms, their voices, all that amazing stuff, why wouldn't I? So when we had this opportunity to produce this book, and like you said, create this resource that anyone could pick up at any point in their career and have a safe, trusted place that they could read, that they could follow up with, that they could reference. Again, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
And when it got, obviously, the chance to do it with you, even more so, right? So it's just bizarre knowing that it's actually out there, and seeing like the hard printed copy was bizarre all in itself.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will just help. That's the goal, right? And hopefully people will be picking up that book and knowing that they've got two women at a minimum that have their back, that they can reach out to with questions, that can be almost like a friend. I think that's the vibe we tried to go for with the book.
Yeah, I think so. When we were writing the book, we sent off the first third to a group of trusted individuals to give us a little bit of insight. And one of the comments we got back was like, it's almost like having a glass of wine with friends. And that's exactly, as two people that like a little glass of wine, it was exactly what we wanted to create, was that safe space and that space where we can say, well, we've been there, we felt that way. And I also think, maybe a bit selfishly, I needed a way to process the last 6 years of my life, which has been my career, because there have been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but I don't think I'd ever sat and contemplated in the way that writing a book forces you to do. And it can be quite confronting, that experience of, well, this bad thing happened to me. And actually, when you write about it, you process it and you're able to feel it. And I know, when obviously having written it together, that it opened up a lot of conversation within our relationship about our experiences and similar experiences and differing experiences. And I think that in itself has been positive for me on a personal level, but also I think it's really enhanced the friendship we have.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think a lot of people have latched onto how open we've been with a lot of the topics, both in the book and in the podcasts. And a lot of the things we have covered, people have never so blatantly and clearly spoken about before. And I think that's part of the goal, part of the mission, is we're going to say it how it is. We're going to try and be as open and helpful and honest as we can be, so that people, like you said, can thrive in their role in cyber, not just survive it.
Yeah, for sure. And just a final part to add on that was, it was super important for us to include a section on allyship, because that's one thing that I don't see in my space a whole bunch of conversation about. And so being able to provide 3 allies in very different parts of the industry who have either personally really rallied behind us in our careers or have been really shining examples is really important to have that representation. Because from my perspective, even as a woman, I don't always know what makes a good ally. And so reading the experiences of Sam, Jim and Kieran was very interesting to see their perspective on allyship. And they've all come at it at very different angles. So I think that's also part of my why, was that I wanted to give examples of what good allyship looks like and what supporting women in their careers might feel like, what it looks like in practice.
Yeah. And that ties to role models as well, right? In the role models section, having a diverse group of women from industry that have all had different pathways, all different lived experiences, but are role models in their own way and in their own rights.
For sure. Cool. Okay, now we've covered that. Moving on then, question for you, Rebecca. This comes in from an anonymous sender. So she said, I would love to write more, but I'm worried to put myself out there. Did you have any fears going into the process, and how did you overcome them?
100% had a lot of fears. We obviously knew we wanted to write. Amelia, I assume you wanted to write. I made an assumption right there. Yeah. But for me, the biggest fear was the fear of judgment. You're writing down your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences in a way that opens you up for people to critique you and to judge you. A lot of the experiences and way we've answered is based on what we've actually experienced, what we've lived. And I think then if we'd had people criticising that or telling us we were wrong for whatever reason, I would have found that really hard. And that's what scared me. I didn't want people to think I was too big for my boots, being like, oh yeah, I can come in and answer all your questions. Look at me. Or think I was silly.
Yeah.
Or stupid. I hate that word. Or didn't know what I was talking about. That's what scared me. I think the way I overcame it was through collaborating. So I could share the concerns. We could bounce different answers to different questions off each other to make sure we were in the right space and that we weren't going off on a tangent or we hadn't consumed a question in the wrong way.
Yeah.
We were answering it in a helpful, fruitful way. Sharing what I was worried about, whether that be with you, whether that be with our trusted group, whether that be with my husband. So again, it's that affirming positive behaviour, sounding board, safe spaces. And again, just sourcing feedback. Like you said, we had our trusted group that we let read parts of the book as part of the process as we built it. But getting affirming positive feedback from them, getting guidance from people that were also living in the industry, surviving and thriving in the industry, to make sure, again, we were just going the right way about it.
Yeah. No, that's very true. And I think the thing that resonates with me that you said is that fear of perception. As humans, like one of our biggest fears is how we're perceived by others. And I definitely felt it, that it might feel silly and it feels a bit icky to go, oh, we've written a book. And it's something that obviously I'm very proud of and we should be proud of. But I think I was concerned about how it would come across. And especially when you're creating a resource that you pitch at an underrepresented group within the industry, there is obviously going to be comments and thoughts on that. But I would say it's been overarchingly very positive. The one thing that I have been asked a lot is around like the process of working with each other. And being completely honest, I was fearful in the beginning of what that might materialise like, because the one really big thing to overcome when you write a book with someone else is a common voice. And we write very differently, we speak very differently. And so that was a big fear, was like, well, what if we don't agree? And what if we don't get on?
Yeah.
And I think we very naturally, and even now with opportunities we're having, the number one thing for us is like being honest and communicating with each other. And I think throughout the book, we were in a good position where if you didn't like something or I didn't like something, we could pick up the phone and say, I don't like this, or I feel uncomfortable
100%.
and this is my rationale. And I think that's really important. And that's something that I always say, if you're going to do something with someone else, you don't have to be the best of friends, but you definitely need to have a really strong level of communication and transparency. And I think it's trust is what it comes down to. Was
Agreed.
that once I felt that we were in a space where we trusted each other enough to sort of create something like this, it just made it so much easier.
Yeah.
And, there's always I don't think it was a fear for me, but a concern. And I remember calling you and saying, you do know that we're going to be known as like one entity now. And are you okay with that? And I was very fearful that that would almost take away from things we'd done individually. And if anything, I think it's really strengthened what we've done. And it's meant that we're able to pursue opportunities in our working lives that maybe we wouldn't have been able to do before. So it's been really positive, and I feel very grateful to have done it with you. I know a lot of these podcasts are us gushing about each other, but I think it's really a testament, the fact that we got through it with no significant fallings out, no sort of, oh, well, she said this and did that. It was very amicable and it was fun.
That's, I think, one of the biggest relief for me is that we were very aligned.
Yeah.
Like you said, it can really test a friendship and a relationship going through this kind of process and working together. And we'd never worked together before.
No.
We didn't know each other in a professional sense of having worked in the same organisation. So I was scared, thinking, could I lose her if this goes horribly wrong? But like you said, I think it's just made us stronger. I think we understand each other in an even better way than we did before. I don't know. Yeah. I love you. I feel really lucky.
Everyone is so sick of us.
Yeah, they're like, come on now, this is supposed to
talk
be
about something interesting.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So we're going to go into our final question for today. This one's a bit of a tricky one, so good luck, my friend. Book writing looks like a big old challenge. What are some of the highs and lows during the experience?
Oh, that's very interesting and makes me think I probably should have prepared a bit more for this. I think overarchingly, starting on a positive with the highs, is that for me, and as we've discussed, it was lovely to bounce ideas off of each other. And I don't know that the process would have been A, as efficient, and B, as fun as if I was doing it on my own. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's a really big high for me, is being able to experience those firsts together. Like, we really made a conscious effort to make a big deal out of the stages. So when we got the first cover of the test cover of the book, we opened it together in a nice little bar, and it was lovely, and we've documented that moment, and that was a really special thing to experience with another person. And seeing something you care about come to life. I have another one, but I'm going to save that to end on a high. In terms of the lows, it is quite emotional, and it can be quite emotionally draining. I was super busy with work around the time we were writing the book and finishing a degree and managing SciBaid. And so when you sort of have then, not necessarily pressure, because it's very much self-imposed pressure, but when you have deadlines and you want to get things done and someone else is relying on you, that was quite challenging. And at times, like, I had to take a break because I thought, this is getting too much. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. That being said, though, on the day of the book launch, my dad said something to us that is always, always stuck by me. We went for a lovely lunch with my mum and dad, and he said to us, "This is your legacy."
No.
And I think it's like, that's it. That's exactly what makes all of that late nights working on it, editing, stressing over things being perfect worth it. Because I know that that this book will always exist, and that's what we've given to the world, and that's a really big high for me. So thank you, Dad, for that.
Oh.
We probably cried when he said it, knowing us.
Bless your parents. You're so lucky. I suppose when I think about my highs, it's all very similar. I feel like I've shared a bucket load of highs through this podcast today. I think the thrill of it, seeing it come to life, sharing the moments, being able to share it with family, that we'd reached there, that having that copy in hand was just amazing. I think I wouldn't say it's a low, but again, maybe something that just I was very conscious to, was the accountability and the responsibility that came with this. And at times that was amazing because I felt like I was accountable to someone and that was going to make it happen because we'd made a promise. And in the moments where I thought, I'm so tired, I don't know I can do this, I knew I had you and we had each other's back. But with that accountability and responsibility, there is this underlying pressure of, you don't want to let the other person down and you want to write your best and you want to be the best in that moment for the other person too.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's good and bad. But
no, for sure. I think that's true. And I think I never really considered it until afterwards that there is a big responsibility that comes with creating something of this nature because, well, if the advice is terrible and someone follows it and it goes wrong, that's on you and I. And so I think that's where we really reaped the benefit of having people around us that were really engaged in the process. And, you know, it was really lovely to include people we really care about. So, for example, my cousin did the front cover. You know, friends of ours did proofreading and did photography and that kind of thing. And being able to bring together the skills and expertise of people you care about whose work is fantastic was really fun. And it was a really nice moment for me at the launch with Harry, my cousin, who designed our cover, seeing it in sort of on the big board and being able to take a picture of it together. And that's really special. That's something that I don't think many people can say they've got to do. So I think it was perfect. One thing I want to cover before we end is the whole concept of any sort of gotcha moments, because conscious that, there's been a lot of, there's been a lot of people that have reached out to us saying that they want to write a book. And so I'm wondering if there's anything that stands out to you as a recommendation or like a key thing to note or remember if someone's going to do this themselves.
So I suppose we started our experience through WhatsApp and through messaging each other. But I think that was a pivotal moment, is having that mission or that vision. I think it's great to be like, I want to write a book, but I don't personally think you should start until you know what that is. Yeah. I don't think you should just jump in without a clear view of what you want to accomplish and what you want to say. And I feel like we had that pretty early on. We had to tweak it ever so slightly as we bridged our way through, but I think we knew what we wanted to get to. With that in mind, I think sketching out the chapters, or at least a pathway of where you want to go through the text. So you have almost a story or a narrative kept, I know at least me, in check and in line with where we were going, because I think it's so easy as well to end up going down a rabbit hole or a tangent and you've ended up writing tons of stuff on something that doesn't really fit with what the book was about to start with. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good point, because we had the chapters first, and the first thing we did was just write an introduction about yourself in 1,500 words or something like that. And actually that was a bit of a springboard for every time that we sat down to write a chapter. We wrote notes in terms of what we might want to cover, the kinds of questions that we've been asked. So I think that's really important. The second thing I would say, if you are going down the self-publishing route, find someone who's done it and talk to them. We were really lucky that we had that and we had someone to speak to, because especially if you use Kindle Direct Publishing, which most people use when they self-publish, it's not the most intuitive process. And we were given insights that, we'd of course be happy to share with others, but we were given insights around things to make it a bit easier, like what to expect, what you should be doing. And I think for us, it was knowing where to find that information, but also knowing things like, what structure does the book need to be in? What does a manuscript need to look like? What are the cover dimensions and sizes and things like that, which seem quite small, but when you're at the point of publishing and it's written and you're so excited for it to go out, that's where you start to feel stressed and it can become quite a stressful process.
No, I totally agree. We were so lucky to have people we could trust to talk that through with, that genuinely gave such helpful tips at a point when I think you were about to pull all your hair out looking through how to do it. One other thing I just want to throw out there is that people might not know is that we both wrote this remotely.
Yeah.
We didn't actually get in a room and be like, right, today we're going to write this chapter. We both did it independently in our own homes and just kept checking in with each other, would leave comments, used different trackers. So keep your project management hat on if you can when you're going to write a book. Keep planning, document, add comments. And just keep communicating because it does help. You don't have to be sat in the same space to create a piece of content.
No, that's totally true. And if you're undertaking it on your own, I would say keep that same level of accountability. Something we found to be very helpful in very true consultant style from me was that we had a project plan, we had spreadsheets for everything. And something we didn't anticipate that I think is really important, potentially as important as what you write, is how you market it. So we had a sit-down conversation with a friend of ours who works in marketing to ask her, how do you promote something? And she gave some really fantastic advice in terms of, leveraging multimedia, leveraging different platforms, getting people with influence to talk about it, that kind of thing. But we have, and we still have, a very clear comms plan. And I think that having that before we launched was quite key, because when you launch something, it's chaos. It was really busy. The book went out on the Thursday, the launch was on the Friday. There were people here, there and everywhere. And then we both went on holiday. And so that was really key, was being quite accountable in terms of, well, we're going to post about this, we're going to talk about this. And also within the process of writing the book, we had all of the chapters on a spreadsheet with all of the questions. And we had a colour code system for if something was written, reviewed, agreed, or in draft, that kind of thing. And even if you were doing it on your own, I think that part is really helpful, because once you start getting into it, especially if you're talking about some of the more meaty topics, you can really get a bit lost in terms of what you're saying. So 100% recommend get yourself an Excel. If you don't want to do it, we'll do it for you, because we love
Excel.
that. But things like that, I guess, where no one tells you that. You kind of just figure it out.
There's something really lovely, though, when you're writing or when you're working on a project and you see it going green. And I remember when we got to the last day and we coloured in the last green box. And it was like, yes, it's all green. We did it. So there's something very affirming and exciting about having such a structured plan. But obviously we were maybe a bit more structured than others would be. I think that's kind of the people we are, right?
Neurotic is what I would say.
Speak for yourself.
Well, this is the thing. And that's it really, is that, you'll approach it however feels best for you. And ultimately, I can tell you all day long the sort of tips and tricks that worked for us. But if you want to do this, the best thing I can say is do it in a way that's authentic for you, because I wouldn't have been able to work without loads of structure. That's just how my brain is wired. But I can appreciate that might be a hindrance to other people's creative flow and how they work. So what I would say is give yourself plenty of time if you are going to do it, and really take your time to think about the process rather than just the writing, because otherwise it's not an enjoyable process. But I think everyone should write a book if they want to. The thing I get a lot from people is, well, I wouldn't know what I want to write about. I didn't know until we had that fateful WhatsApp conversation. So if it's something you're interested in doing, don't let that fear of, oh, well, it's not fully polished and I'm not fully sure. Don't let that stop you.
And don't let your self-doubt stop you either. I think that's another point, is I think you can question whether you're capable, question whether you're the right person, question whether you should. But if you've got that urge and you want to put it on paper, or you want to voice note it and write it down later, whatever the avenue is, go for it. Just do it. You've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, it's the concept of why not me rather than why me. Because there is never going to be a right time for this. Life will always get in the way, as we found. But 100%. And, we're always in your corner if you want to do that. We love talking about the process because we had a lot of fun. So if you are interested in doing it and you're listening to this and you think, I want to do this and I want to talk to someone about it, we'd love to.
Yeah, drop us a message. We've got you.
Cool. Okay. I think we've covered quite a lot today in terms of the process, the highs, the lows, some of the more logistic elements of the process. Do you have anything you'd like to add before we finish up?
Just, I feel really lucky.
Yeah,
I feel
too.
really lucky that it's out there, that it's helping. I've had people tell me that it's helped, that we've made a difference, that we've made a beautiful footprint, and we've got to do it together.
Oh, yeah, no, I completely agree. So there have been lots of amazing questions today, and I've really enjoyed this. I don't know about you. The book has been a gift to us and has definitely brought us closer than ever. And it's definitely been a learning experience with a lot of joy, a smattering of stress. But I've never felt so inspired by it, probably never felt so humbled either. And to let you in on a little secret, we are discussing book 2 and what that might look like. So if you have any other questions relating to the book or topics within cyber, pop them to us at cyberagonyaunts@gmail.com and we'll do our best to reply there or consider it for a future podcast.
Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support, please share it with others or post about it on social media using the hashtag #CyberAgonyAunts.
If you'd like to hear more from us, remember to grab our book, Securely Yours, An Agony Aunts Guide to Surviving Cyber, available on Amazon.
Finally, a big thank you to Matinee Multilingual for bringing this pod vision to life. Keep smiling, keep shining, and we'll see you next time on the Securely Yours podcast.